Alright, so for the sake of for protecting people, everything's related to chapter 1 or 11, I mean, international relations and whatnot, and class discussion, I guess, that we've learned over time. So it's like the level of analysis. I would argue that it's a system level, because when you go to individual, it kind of takes out the whole morale. It's not depending on people for individual power. It's not going to gain anyone anything. The individuals aren't going to be able to do much. Then I wouldn't say it's state, because it mentions in the reading that there's a lot of conflicting states who can't even come to an agreement. There's barely an agreement on the theory and like how to go about it, kind of essentially protecting the environment in a way. And then I would argue that system level, because it literally states in there that this is supposed to be applied to like the planet as a whole. It also, mentions that there are some things you can't put boundaries or borders on, such as the air and water. So it's gonna apply. This theory needs to be applied globally, or at the system level, because it affects everyone at the end of the day. And then the second part is kind of like choose a theory from the realism series. So it's not realism, because again it takes out the whole individual from it, and it kind of mentions later on in there that there's like a relationship that essentially could limit people's freedoms to consume for the sake of the theory's vision. And it's very much anti-center human, or anti-focus on humans' interests and whatnot. So it would take away from the realism aspect of the individual wanting and seeking power. And then neorealism, that's the one I went for, because it's essentially kind of arguing, like it said, you can't set boundaries on certain things like water and air, and from there it needs to be a global thing. There are states arguing about it, but it needs to like become more global for the sake of long preserving the natural resources in nature and the environment. And it's about survival, because if you have contaminated air and start talking about pollution of water, etc., you're gonna potentially hurt the survival of future generations or your state as a whole. And then for the balance of power, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's trying to at all even relevant to trying to prevent a conflict. I guess in the long run, if you're having pollution of water, and then you kind of have like an area that's not as polluted, I guess you can have a conflict there, but I don't think this really has anything to do with this specific theory. And security dilemma, no one in this theory is like trying to one-up each other or feel threatened by another country for putting in environmental laws or things like that. So that is that is how I chose it.